Hi and welcome to this week's video. In this video I finish off the construction of the tailplane closing panels so they fit around the tailplane, and I start looking at the front fuel tank installation, which is not as straightforward as one might think, but we'll see how we get on. So join me. So well, from last week's video you saw that I got the cover panel sort of fabricated for this side. Here's the one for the other side, and I'm just marking up the position of the mount here, the top of that, the front and rear, same at this end, because that's going to be the critical line for the horizontal stabilizer. I've marked up the position of the little blocks there, which as you can tell with the straight edge there's a gap. That's to allow the fact I want to have the skin, this closing panel skin, bent over and away from the covering on the horizontal stabilizer. It'll have to be cut away slightly where the mounting points are, so there'll be a little notch. And then because this is 3/4 of an inch wide, what I've done is I've just gone along the top there, and that's marking the top of the tailplane position. So all I need to do now is establish where the leading edge of the tailplane is there, bore a hole in the closing panel, and then cut down the center line between the mount and the top of this, allowing an extra 3mm above for the bend radius, and that to allow for this skin to be clear of the top. Find the center line of that, cut all the way down that center line all the way to the very back. Then I've got something I can actually bend up, well, bend over to clear the tailplane and make this section rigid so it doesn't want to pant in and out. That's as per the plans. And I just need to work out with the elevator sort of area where this is going to be cut out for fixings back here. I think it'll be a small wood block just go into the corner here for a screw. There might be a small wood block up here, a second one for a screw, just to keep that section flat, because most of this will be cut out to allow for the elevator movement. You can see I've left a bit excess. That's so that I can fine tune everything once I've got all the slots and bits sorted, so I've got a lovely smooth edge at the back end of the fin. Right, I'll crack on and we'll just get the tailplane horizontal stabilizer fitted to be able to work out where the leading edge section is going to be to start off with. So marked on the inside, as you can see here, all the marks for where the various bits are. I've drilled the holes for where it's going into the block. That's cut to 1 inch because the width of the tailplane horizontal stabilizer is 3/4 of an inch. That gives me 1/8 either side for the bend, which should bring the bend down to touch the top of these blocks here and give it clearance above. That's the basic line of life. And this mark here is where I'm going to be drilling a hole, because we're going to cut down and back to about here, and then it'll be cut away for the elevator movement. So there's the cut done with a jigsaw, just cut up there at the angle down there, so that's at 26 degrees because the maximum up elevator is 25, so I've set that at 26 just to give a bit of clearance, and it's set forward so the hinge point is actually about here, so there should be a clearance between the elevator cross piece and this at all times. So this just needs to be filed clean, but I'm actually going to do the bends. So you can sort of see the blue line there, hopefully is where the bend line is. That's for some reason got a slight wiggle in it, but that's dead straight. It's a blue line there, and that's the line to which I'm going to be folding up these bits. And then once that's done, I'll file them clean, radius those bits, and hopefully that'll be one side done. Well, there we have the first fairing sort of in position. There's no need for a triangular block, I don't think, back here. I think that'll be stiff enough with that screw in there. Just a little bit of manipulation going on, but there is going to be a need for something going from one side here to the other. And I'll just go dress everything back to the lines and get everything polished up and put in the 3 mounting screws down there. But I've got it fitted there. There's enough room for anti-chafe tape around the edges there, fairly close tolerance, which is good. So I'm just going to repeat the same on the other side, clean up this side, get the other side sorted out, and that'll be that little job done. Okay, so I found that I do need to put a cross piece across the section there to stop this lot from panting in and out at the bottom at the back here, so just makes everything far more rigid. So we're going to have to make up a little bracket section to go in there. So here we are, we've got it all sort of set up, and the edge is cleaned up a bit, and underneath there you can probably just see I've put in a bracket going across to give this rigidity, well, a bit of rigidity. It's not perfect rigid, but it's pretty good setup. And the plate is set so it just sits on top of the tailplane rear spar, so it can't rotate around with a single screw. It'd have to go all the way up and over, and because of the fact that this is tapered out like that, it wouldn't be able to go all the way around and drop and jam the elevator. There's either that or to put 2 anchor nuts in, and I don't have space really. I had to make the bracket really big if I was going to do that. So we're effectively finished back here, and there's the little tail closing panel bracing piece there, primed up with H primer, ready to go. You can just see it's a simple folded section with the anchor nuts floating anchor nuts on each side. Okay, so I've just been varnishing the fin. Now that we've got the closing panels, which I've primed with a grey acid etch primer. I've varnished the fin and that now. It's had 2 coats of varnish. Just using that varnish. I'll put a coat of gloss over the top rather than satin, and that way I can for the 3rd and last coat, that way I'll know exactly what state things are in. Just a note for anybody, because I don't think I've mentioned it. The bend radius is on the bends and that on this, because it's 0.8. I've done it at 2.4 millimeters bend radius, because that's suitably open to make sure that the 6082 T6 doesn't crack. It'll be the same for 6061 T6 as well. So just for reference on all the bending I've done. Right, let's go to my next area of play. Here we are, fuel tank area, and as you can see, I've set the height of the fuel tank. The filler is only just level with the top of the covering there, or what will be, but it has to be that low to allow for clearance going around the front corner. I can't mount it any further back. As you can sort of see, there isn't an awful lot of clearance at the back there, so I put some padding in various areas. That's it, parallel with the longeron. I would have preferred to had it up about 3/4 of an inch higher, so the top of the neck was just above, but at that height the front corner here interferes with, or would interfere with, the side skin, and this section here interferes with the cabane, and that means that the whole tank would need to move further forward. Moving the tank further forward means it would interfere with the gussets and bits for the cross member here, so that's where it has to be. You can see I've got one strap sort of in place. The strap which I'm using is this sort of packing strapping stuff, just bent. These ends here will be bent over. My idea is that it'll come across here flat. I'm going to have to put a piece of wood in. I'm going to put a piece of wood block in with a bit of a clearance, so I can put some chassis tape, and then on the underside I'll have a piece of ply bridging across to the longeron with a anchor nut on it, and the top will have a piece of ply just for the bolt to go through. And the same here, and this one's going to be pretty much in line with the back of the fuel filler, and this one's going to be pretty much in line with where it is at the moment, because that's just in front of the main fuel tap. And we'll see how we get on with that, and then I'll just need to make up a strap to go over the top. This strapping will have chassis tape or felt put around it so it doesn't chafe, and I've made an allowance for that, so we can not have that chattering away and eating into the aluminium of the fuel tank, and it's isolated from it. Okay, so I've made some blocks up. This one here will sort of fit there. There's a bit of a gap, but I don't want to put anything any wider than that. It just gives me a bit of wiggle room to get the tank in, and I'll just make sure the sort of strapping comes across and that there's some padding to stop the tank from wobbling from side to side at all. And for towards the front end I've got this block here, which is a tighter, I don't know if that's in focus, there we go. Now this block here, which is going to be a tighter fit there for the strapping, just to make sure everything sort of stays so it doesn't wobble from side to side. I will put in into the gap between the two blocks against the side of the fuselage. I'll put a high density foam pad when the fuel tank gets fitted. There'll be high density foam around the corner at the front here, and up here on this sort of section of the tubing I'll put some silicone pipe, you know, the same sort of stuff as you get for cooling pipe on cars and things, so there's no chance of the tank rattling backwards and forwards and eating into the cabane strut, or the cabane strut eating into the fuel tank, so I end up with fuel pouring over my feet. How we're going to close this section off, on the drawings it goes as strips going sort of front to rear. I'm utilising a method that another Fisher builder on his classic use, which is sort of have it wrapped around in sections going around the fuselage from one side to the other, which I agreed with him as, you know, looks better, I thought. The difference is my front section will be that'll be screwed in place, but the midsection will screw onto that and screw onto the rear section, but the rear section will actually be bonded into place rather than having it removable. I don't see much point in having it removable. We'll be able to access the instruments, the wiring, everything from behind the instruments from there, and from the sort of tank access section here. And the only reason we're having this front section removable is so we can get down the bottom end there to deal with electrical connections and things down there. So there'll be two removable sections, front and middle, but the rear section won't be. and I've yet to make up the bit going back here, which I think will be my next project actually. But I'm going to bond these blocks in, see if we can get the fuel tank height set up. The blocks are bonded into position. I think pretty much that's it for this week. Can't think of much else I can actually get on with in the time I've got left. So, see how we get on next week. Well, that's it for this week. Fuel tank mounting started. Those closing panels at the back end completed. That's quite a big job. I'm sorry I didn't show an awful lot of the bending and fabrication on that, but hey ho, I've been quite short of time. All in all though, 7.5 hours spent this week just doing the closing panels and what we've done on the tank, so a real big chunk of work on those closing panels. Anyway, let's see what we get up to next week, so bye now, keep well. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. You can subscribe or even hit the little bell notification for future videos. Any comments would be appreciated and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, go fly and feel the sky.